Ryan Poles has his dream scenario 110% in place. Now, the real question is, who's going to be the team that he's able to take advantage of moving into the draft? And how has Bryce Young helped out the Chicago Bears? We'll talk about all that and more in today's episode of Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page, man. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. The Chicago Bears are in a absolutely gorgeous position with with Bryce Young now going to the draft combine, saying that he's not going to be throwing, and a slew of teams sitting behind them salivating for this #1 pick. And when I say a slew, I think you really have to look into how many teams are quarterback needy coming into this draft, right? I mean, it's not just the top two. You've already got Houston, who's talking about really wanting Bryce Young, really wanting to go after this pick. There's a lot of people that believe that Houston will end up making the #1 pick in this draft, and that they will be the ones to go up there and try and get who will give the most to go get that pick. They've been talked about as not being outbid for Bryce Young, right? But there's still some Will Levis love. There's still some CJ Stroud love. And I think that that's why this is a dream scenario for the Chicago Bears here, because now that we're getting closer to the draft, that quarterback market is starting to kick up, right? And now all of a sudden it's not just, wow, what can Bryce Young do? Is Bryce Young going to be good in the NFL? Is Bryce Young going to be the right move? Because I think that Houston's kind of locked in on that. It never really felt to me like Indianapolis was fully locked in. It kind of felt like, remember, their owner comes out and he's like, I do like the kid from I don't even know if that's his accent. He's like, I do like the kid from Alabama, though. We can get him in here. He'd be a great addition to this team, right? That felt a little bit like we're trying to throw you off the trail. We're going nowhere near this guy, to me personally. But then all of a sudden, right, like now Bryce Young has moved up. He's going to be that top guy, and he's decided not to throw. Usually when players decide not to throw, it's because they know that they're going to go to a specific team, or there's some talk in place that if we're going to try and move heaven and earth to come get you. Just don't right, entice yourself to nobody else, basically stuff like that a lot of times, right? And so, but by doing that, you're creating the wonder, you're creating the mystery, you're creating the, okay, but what can he do at the NFL level? What can he do? And a lot of times with as many teams need a quarterback in this draft, I know there's a couple of people that have said that this is not a great draft for the Bears to have the first overall pick in. I completely disagree. I think this is a perfect draft because of how many teams need what is at the top of your draft and will be willing to move on from certain pieces because of what's at the top of your draft. I mean, if you really look at what teams here kind of need, you're talking about what? Probably 8 teams that might need a quarterback. Maybe 9, right? I mean, like you could go very deep in this draft when you're looking at the top of the draft and say, there could be enticement from literally every team, and each of these teams might have a reason to move up. Even the Commanders yesterday, right? Moving on from Carson Wentz might now have a reason to move up. You just brought in Eric Bieniemy. Are you really going to sit there and not go for a quarterback in this draft? Are you really going to sit there and ride with what you already have on the team? I just don't believe so. So now the question is, right, is there a double trade that's possibly going to be in place for the Chicago Bears where they're able to go out there and get draft capital, draft talent? But this is the perfect scenario for Ryan Ryan Poles, because as this is all coming together, right, you still got CJ Stroud going to throw at the combine. You still got Will Levis that's going to throw at the combine, right? Guys that are going to start to grow the intrigue of some of these teams that maybe were on the fence a little bit, that are looking at these guys in college and saying, yeah, I don't know if I feel good about them, but I don't know if we can move up to go get them. Now you're creating the feeding frenzy. That is the greatest thing that Ryan Poles can have happen. And now he just has to be able to take advantage of it. I'm not going to lie. It seems like this is going to be a situation where Ryan Poles literally can't mess up unless he does anything but take the pick. Now, here's the real question that you also have to ask. Is the double trade back the best situation for the Chicago Bears? The Bears have a ton. By the way, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. How do you feel about, I always try to throw this part in there so I can hear from you guys. How do you feel about the situation that the Chicago Bears are in, the feeding frenzy that seems to be coming for this #1 pick, and the ability to still be able to move out of that second pick or the 4th pick should it go to there, right? Like, how do you guys feel about the Bears' opportunities that they have moving ahead? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. The other thing for me, though, when I'm looking at how this Bears team is going to be able to attack this season, when I'm looking at, or this draft, I should say, to me, there is so much that you can do outside of just that first pick. The double trade back to me is a real possibility. But the question that I have is there that game-changing, game-wrecking player at the top that we absolutely need? Is there a Jalen Carter? Is Will Anderson the guy that we absolutely have to go get? Because remember, right, free agency does play a little bit of a part into this, right? The Bears have been rumored to be trying to go after Javon Hargraves, especially after Daron Payne's name was taken off of the market yesterday. He was the first person to be franchise tagged yesterday. So that makes a huge difference in what you're going out there and to go get. Now, Javon Hargraves is a excellent player. He would be a great get for me if the Chicago Bears went out after him. I feel like, and PFF had him rumored coming to us. I feel like he would be a really good name for the Bears to be able to go out there and get and start off your free agency. Again, I talked about him very much like I talked about when Ryan Pace went out there and got Akeem Hicks, right? Akeem Hicks was that name where it was like, nah, I think the want level is a little bit different, but Akeem Hicks was that player that you looked at and you were like, this dude can still cause some havoc, man, as long as he's on the field. And by the time the Bears got him, right, when he was with the Bears, he was a top 100 player in the NFL 4 or 5 times. You know what I mean? So I think that those are the things that you look at with a player like Javon Hargraves and you say, listen, is he the most flashy player on the field? No. Is he the guy that you're going to yell his name out 37 times a game? Probably not, right? But what you're going to do is you're going to notice the impact that he brings to a game every single down that he's on the field. You're going to notice the impact that he's able to have on a defensive line and how he's going to make other pieces on that defense's life easier by being able to put pressure on the quarterback. And so to me, right now, that is such a big part of this, because you're going into this draft basically saying, okay, if we are trying to go after that guy in free agency, what do we want in the draft? Is that a long-term piece for us? Javon Hargraves coming up on 30 years old. Is he a long-term piece for us? Is he a 4 or 5 year piece for us? Or should we attack our 3 technique in the draft, right? I think that those are the real questions that you have to answer when you're talking about trading back, because if you feel like you can go in this draft and find you a guy that you're going to be able to plug in there for the next 15 years, that's a lot long. That's very long. It's NFL. For the next 10 years, right? If you feel like you have that game-wrecking player, you're Aaron Donald in the middle, right, at the top of the draft, or even if you have your Khalil Mack coming off of the edge, right? Like, if you feel like you have either of those at the top of this draft, the question is, can you move off of those players to still probably go out there and be able to find really, really solid players, but maybe not that game-wrecking player, right? Like, can you really move off of those guys? Because a lot of times that's where the drafts are made and break, right? Made and broken. When you're able to trade out of a pick like the Chicago Bears are doing, how high this pick is. When you're able to trade out of a pick like the Bears are going to be able to do, you still need to go out there and get that game-wrecking player, right? It doesn't change the fact that the Bears have a ton of needs. It just changes the fact that the Bears have more bites at the apple for them to be able to go out there and attack some of those needs. It doesn't change the fact that the Chicago Bears are going to be able to go out there, or still have to go out there and make a draft selection at some point, right? Like, we get so enamored with the picks that we're not actually talking about the guys that are going to be selected and who's going to be the best option for the Chicago Bears at the end of the day with that. For me, right, like, I come into this and I feel like if you're going to take one of those top guys, you still have to be right. The pressure is still on. You cannot miss. You can't come away with and you can't come away with a guy that just plugs in, right? You can't come away with a guy that's just a guy in the offense. To take a selection that high, you have to come away with a game wrecker. And so that's why the question comes up, right? Is it best to take one of the two top guys, Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, or is it better for you to move back? You still got to make a selection. You still have to have that right pick, but you're allowing yourself to have more bites at the apple to try and plug more holes over taking the big swing on one guy. Now, the big swing on these one guys, right? Like, is it a swing for the fences? Is it at a minimum a double? That's kind of where you're what you're trying to figure out if you're Ryan Poles at this point. But to me, I'm looking at this entire situation. I'm saying, okay, where the Bears are at right now, I think the best situation is to have more bites at the apple, is to take that second step back, because I think that there'll be more teams looking to get the second pick than possibly the first, because there's more teams that'll believe they have an ability to go get that pick if Houston does indeed move into that first pick. And the fact that CJ Stroud and Will Levis are the two quarterbacks that are still willing to go out there and throw the football, right? Bryce Young is projected to be off of the table. So the fact that CJ Stroud and Will Levis are two guys that are still willing to go out there and throw the football, now you're going to actually see teams that maybe weren't in it that are going to try and move up heaven and earth, very much like, remember, Ryan Pace did for Mitch Trubisky, where we were like, we're moving up a lot of spaces here. Like, what the heck is going on? All of a sudden, now you're looking at the Chicago Bears and you're saying, the first pick was great. We got a haul for that. Wait a minute. You guys want CJ Stroud? Okay. Well, that means that we can't go get our guy, right? And maybe it's the Colts. Maybe you still are able to get one of your guys. Maybe that's a deal where you're still able to get that top 4 game record in Will Anderson or Jalen Carter versus having to move all the way back, right? But I think that there's going to be some packages out there for the second pick that are just as big as packages for the first pick if the Bears were to move into that situation. Because to me, now all of a sudden, you still got to go get a quarterback, and there's only 2 guys left, and it's a 50% shot that you're going to go out there and you're going to get your guy. Let me know how you guys feel, man, in the comments below. I think that there's going to be some really good suitors coming out for the Chicago Bears. I think that even for, like I said, even for the second pick, I think that Carolina's absolutely in play here. I think they're a team that's looking to move up. I think Washington is absolutely in play. I think there are some teams that have a lot of pieces already in place, right, that are absolutely in play. Vegas maybe even as well. Don't hold them out. Those are the teams to me that you probably could go out there and get the most for in the long-term draft-wise, right? Because they're teams that feel like, okay, we've got certain pieces in place already that we're trying to make work. We just need to go out and get a quarterback. Vegas, to me, right? They've already got Hunter Renfrow. They've got Devontae Adams. They've got their running game and Josh Jacobs. They've got their tight end already. They're trying to build up that defense for sure. And maybe they would surprise us and move up and try and take one of the 2 defensive players, which I doubt that happens, right? They need a quarterback more than anything. I doubt we see Aaron Rodgers going out to Vegas this offseason. So to me, right, like, those are the names that I'm looking at, and I'm like, hey, dog, like, those are the guys you need to be trading with. Those are the guys you need to be talking to. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. What do you think the Chicago Bears need to do? If you're listening over on the podcast side, man, leave a 5-star review and let me know how you guys feel in the comment of the 5-star review as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to another episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. To continue watching our Chicago Bears content, click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. And we will be live for the Chicago Bulls versus the Toronto Raptors tonight. Y'all stay in tune with us, man. Peace.